Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be checking out a recent release in the 30 Minutes Missions line. This is going to be the Verdenova here. This is the green version. And not only are we going to be checking out this main kit for today's video, we're also going to be checking out a couple of option sets here. Got option sets number 21 and 22 here. 21 being the option parts set 10, large propellant tank unit, and 22 here, this one being option parts set 11. This is the large cannon and arm unit. So we'll check all this stuff out for today's video. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So for the box art here, we just kind of got our standard 30 Minutes Mission style with the CG render of the full kit design over here on this side, and then sort of this kind of action scene there in the background where you can see a couple of different units there. But really interesting design here for this one. I do like it quite a bit. It is still, as kind of per usual for this line, in a pretty thin box. You can see this is number 63 in the line. Pretty crazy. This line has been such a huge success for so long now. But here on the bottom of the box, we can see a couple of options there for the head, and then some action poses here with the kit, and a couple of different pretty cool looking poses there. You can see kind of the backpack can come off and be its own thing there, it looks like. We have some hand option parts included, so all good stuff, all stuff you like to see. And then of course you can customize this with some different parts there from some different sets, as you can see from this custom example. Going around here to the other side, just kind of a QR code and a little bit about the multi-joint system there for 30 Minutes Missions. We have just the front and rear view of the kit in full there. And that's pretty much it here. For the outside of the box, let's go ahead and pop it up in here. I would assume, in kind of typical fashion, we're going to have just a couple of runners, and we'll take a look at those in just a moment. But first, on the top of the instruction manual, you can see there's that background image from the front of the box art here in full color now. A little bit of text over here about the Verdenova, and it is there in Japanese and in English if you want to check that out. Another render down here and some more story that's also in Japanese and in English. It's kind of images there from the story showing some of the different units. And then also a little bit more here about the Bailon forces, and you can see some of the other units kind of in the lineup. And so, especially going from the first kind of couple of units there, the Verdenova, for example, which a lot of people drew similarities to the Zaku to, and we've seen other ones that sort of look a little bit like the Dom and kind of like other Zeon units, which is another reason why I think this one is kind of, if you think about it in terms of like the 1 year war lineage of Zeon mobile suits, why this one has some similarities, I think, in terms of its silhouette. Some similarities to the Gelgoog. It's got kind of like the bell-bottom pants there, kind of the pointy shoulders up there, kind of round head, of course. So some similarities to the Gelgoog in terms of its silhouette, I think. Anyway, here on the back side, some more images here of the Verdenova. You can see in like a couple of different formations. And then again, just kind of talking about how you can customize with some different stuff there. So there's some more about that. On the inside, we have the basic construction. I really like this just because it makes it really simple. You don't have to actually go through the full construction process here on these pages, which you have all laid out in black and white, which is a lot more kind of step-by-step if you're more newer. But if you've got a little bit of experience under your belt, where to go? There it is. If you have a little bit more experience under your belt, you can just refer to this one page here, and it shows you the entirety of the construction process. So it's very simple and straightforward. You can assemble the entire kit just with this one page. So I like that. That just makes it that much easier. But you do have the parts list over here on this page, and some of the construction, the beginning of the construction there in color. But yeah, as you can see, for the rest of it, it's all there in black and white. For the runners then, we do have some polycaps here. This PC7 runner for some polycap ball joints there in gray. Then we got runners A1 and A2. A2 just being a copy of this section of the runner right there. This is a 4-color runner with some neon green up there at the top for a couple of clear neon green parts. You have some kind of darker green and a really dark gray over here, and then a couple of white parts there at the bottom. Then up next we got runners B1 and B2, which do have an overlapping section there, which is doubled, but each runner has its own independent parts there. And this is in the really, really dark gray, but it does have a tint of green to it, so it will kind of be like a very, very dark green. The runners C1 and C2 are connected here just as parts for like the hands and joints and everything. This is just going to be in kind of a standard dark gunmetal color. And the same thing here for runner JA1, which is just some joint parts. Some of these I think will be required to use for the kit, but most of these are just going to be leftover parts that you can use for just like option connection pieces and things like that for customization. All right, so now let's take a moment to look at a couple of option sets here. So this is option set 10, a large propellant tank unit, which is actually W21 in the lineup, not to confuse you guys, but here on the end of the box, you can see this kind of image of what's included there, the main part of what's included. On the other side of the box, you can see that actually on what looks to be an Alto there, I believe. But you can see those images here on the front, as well as just kind of detail image of what's included. Basically these very deep striker or like Gundam XS style kind of booster units and propellant tanks here. And so it should make for some pretty cool and useful parts. Over here on this side of the box, you can see these parts in use on like a couple of different custom builds. And over here on this side, once again, just kind of showing the contents and how it could be used on a couple of different examples there. And then you can mix it up with some other additional parts and everything like that as well. So this set here on the inside looks like just a couple of runners. As you might expect, we've got our instructions here as well for this set, and it looks like it's going to be pretty straightforward, of course. Therefore, that we do have a parts list. Part of the construction is going to be there in color, and then it looks like on the black and white pages is just kind of like how to equip these parts, like how to attach them together, and then how to equip them maybe onto a couple of different other kits there for some examples. And it looks like we do have some polycaps included, PC7 for some polycap ball joints there in gray, and then basically 2 runners in white, 2 runners in gray. We have OPS10A1, so that's option set 10. A1 and A2 there for some parts in white, and then runner OPS10B, which is going to be our gray parts here. We just got those doubled for a couple of little gray bits on that set. And then as for option set 11, large cannon and arm unit, this is W22 in the lineup. And once again, on the end of the box, you can see the set in use there on one side. On the other side, the set in use in a different way here on a different kit there on the Forestieri. On this side of the box, you can see a couple of other different custom examples, and on this side of the box just a breakdown of all the contents. It's going to be a number of different parts in there, including option parts and things, so we'll see all that here in just a moment. And then here are those parts in use on a couple of different kits there, and you can see some of those option parts and then a combination with a bunch of other stuff right there. And just to go back to the front of the box are there for a moment. Again, it's just kind of a breakdown of everything that's included, and you can see some sample builds right there. It looks like we're going to have some option parts for like the face mask of the Alto, and I'm not sure if that'll be able to be used on other non-Alto designs or not. I'm not sure. We'll take a look at that. As inside here, once again, we're just going to have a couple of runners, looks like, in a couple of different colors. Typically with these sets, we wouldn't see more than just 2 colors, but we do also have a couple, at least one maybe, clear greenish blue part in there as well. We've got our instruction guide, which here just has on the first couple of color pages the kind of the general construction of some of these parts there. You can see on that, and flipping around back to the black and white kind of interior pages, it's just kind of how to combine and equip these parts with different kits. We also have the parts list on there, and it looks like maybe we do have all the parts to make a full head, so you don't necessarily have to have an Alto head and just change the face mask, but we're actually going to have all the parts for making a full head here. It looks like that you could swap and then put on any kit that you want necessarily, right? And so once again, we have our first couple of white runners here, OPS 11, option set 11. We have runner A1 and A2 here for all of the white parts here for this set, mostly parts for the arms there, of course. A couple of face mask parts on there as well. And then option set 11, runners B1 and B2. Here runner B2, just that one clear blue-green part right there. I guess it's basically just a kind of clear green there, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, and then runner B1 here is just a few parts there in gray, mostly for the cannon, and that's it for the runners for this set. And all right, here is the kit all built up. Really super nice design. Really quick build for this one. I put this together probably not quite 30 minutes, but somewhere around there. This is another example, though, of this line where I do wish that the kit was like a little bit larger. I think the box art does make it look deceptively a little bit larger than what it actually is. It's a design that I think would look really cool, much more kind of intimidating if it was slightly larger, just because I think it does share some very Xeon, if not like Gelgoog, but some other different Xeon and Neo Xeon kind of design vibes, and those mobiles did tend to be a little bit larger, but obviously it's something that you could make much larger by doing different kit bashing and adding more stuff to it and all that good stuff. So anyway, for now we're going to start off by taking a look at its included accessories, which there's not too much other than what you can see on the kit there right at the moment, but some useful stuff, so let's go ahead and take a look at those next. So first up, its main weapons, you may have noticed, are already there on the kit. Connected onto the backpack, we have the rifles on there. There's 2, and you can pop these off here. Kind of reminds me of, what was that IBO HG kit? The Hyakuri, I think, wasn't it? Those just pop off the backpack here. As you can see, we've got a couple of hard points. We've got this handle here on the side that of course could be removed and attached onto the opposite side if you chose. And the barrel part is not a removable barrel part, that's just also part of the entire rifle design. It is just going to be a couple pieces there. We don't have a seam line, but we do have a mold line just kind of making up that detail right there, all the way running the length of that. The problem with this barrel not being a separate piece means that you couldn't replace that with a different piece. As you know, with a lot of the 30 minutes missions kits, and especially the weapon sets and things, we have like replaceable different barrel styles and things. So you don't have that, but you do have this hard point here on the top, the rectangle one, for where you could put some sort of like scope or other attachment onto the top of there from a different weapon set. So some nice options there for that. There's the one hard point there on the bottom for the same thing. So different parts for the top and bottom of the rifle could be attached onto there. This is just gonna pop right down into the hand there, into our holding hands, which are gonna be one of two hand options that we have here for the kit. You also have a set of open hands here like this, and as you can see, you are gonna have to swap that piece for the back of the hand if you want to swap in those. There is also one additional option I will mention here. It's actually sort of an extra part, but it's a holding hand here for the right side only that has a bent wrist, so you might find that useful. Not particularly so much with this one, as this is better used for like swords and axes and things like that, which this kit does not come with, but obviously if you wanted to use a different weapon from a different set with this kit, you might be able to use that. Now, here for the head, we've got a couple of options. One here that has the actual eyes and this kind of like face mask here and the commander antenna there on the top. The other option is more sort of like grunt looking, I guess, with this big circular lens part there for the eye. Those clear parts do look really quite nice. The clear part there for the eyes as well. It's going to be a little bit harder to see, kind of hidden underneath this brow cap there, but nice to have some options there for the head, a couple of option parts. And speaking of option parts, we do have this backpack adapter part here as well, which you might find useful for attaching different stuff there onto the back. And then of course our JA1 runner, which we did use a couple of parts from, but still the majority of the parts on here are just going to be leftover connection parts that you might find useful for customization here for the kit. As for the rest of the kit here, everything is going to be pretty normal. As for the articulation, we have about a 90-degree bend there at the elbow. In the knee, we are going to have a double joint here. It's going to give us a little bit more than 90 degrees, but it's going to be a little bit blocked just by the design of this kind of vent part there at the back of the thigh. Is going to be blocking the leg from bending any further. The ankle is going to be able to move nice and far forward and back, and then the foot is connected via a ball joint, so you are going to have a little bit of movement there with that as well up underneath the feet. There's some hollow spots there, but it's mostly kind of pretty well detailed there underneath the foot. Our front skirt is able to rotate side to side. The side skirts are also able to rotate as well as move up and down. Going around here, our small little back skirt, which kind of like sticks straight out the back there, this is also able to rotate side to side here. And as for our backpack, these connection parts where the rifles are connected onto can move, and then the connection piece here that the rifles are on right there also moves on a ball joint. As for the wings, as you can see, we have a double joint here for the wings, so these can be folded up or down. Also, this piece here on the end, you can rotate that to a different orientation if you want, kind of however you might want to put that. And then lots of hard points here, as you can see, for attaching additional weaponry or artillery, whatever you might want to add onto that here on the side of the shoulder, on the side of the arm, additional hard points there. So lots of spots for customization here with this one. So as you can see here, as we take a look at a couple poses with this one, it is a really cool kit. Definitely really like the design of this one. Like I said, the only thing that I wish about this one, I wish it was maybe a slightly larger, but otherwise, aside from the size of it, the design is really cool, as we've seen with the line, which is normal with this line is what I mean to say. As is the case with all of the kits in this line, we do have a lot of really nice detail on there. It would benefit certainly from doing some panel lining. If you have a brown panel line marker, it would look really good on those dark green sections. Obviously on like the dark gray sections, which are almost black, is you could try some black panel line marker in there and it might be visible, just kind of depending on how well you have the kit lit in like a darker setting. You're probably not going to be able to even see the black panel lining on those dark parts very well, but certainly adding some panel lining and adding some top coat would help to just kind of show off all the details that you have here with this kit. But as far as the articulation goes, it's really nice. And as far as our weapons go, I mean, just having the two rifles, I mean, it is going to be a little bit limited in terms of your weapon options. That's pretty much standard for this line. They usually don't come with anything more than just like a single weapon, or in this case, like a single set of weapons. So although it doesn't necessarily come with a lot, that's just kind of the standard for this line. You know, the main kits are pretty simple in terms of what's included in the box, but they make up for that with a low price point, and then lots of other weapons and accessories and things are available sold separately, so you can check out some of the different option parts and weapons and everything like that. And speaking of option parts, let's go ahead and get back to those couple of option part sets and take a closer look at those. All right, so for the large propellant tank, the option part set 10, here's how the bulk of that's going to look. It's basically made up of a couple of sections. You have these large kind of booster pods here on the side, these long propellant tanks, and then the center backpack section. And we have a couple of option parts here. For this, we have this adapter piece you can plug into there, and this basically will allow this to plug up underneath the hip section, so basically kind of turning this into like your kind of back skirt. Otherwise, we have this option part here, which is just basically going to serve as like kind of a cap, and you can plug this onto an action base and just have this kind of flying along as its own thing if you wanted to make it something like that. And obviously we have a lot of options here as far as if you wanted to add additional parts onto the front of here. You can also add stuff here onto the side, and these can just be used. They're symmetrical, so you can use them in any way that you want if you wanted to have these a little bit more to the front. And then the parts that connect to the fuel tanks here also will allow those fuel tanks to move up and down. So if you wanted those to look a little bit different in any way, you can move those around like so. And then those are just plugged on just via single pegs. So you could also move these to, side, instead of one on top and one on bottom, you could just move these to be like side by side into something like that, if you preferred. So definitely some nice options here with this. And like I said, this set just really reminds me a lot of the Deep Striker, of like the XS Gundam, just because it's got these big kind of booster pods with big thruster nozzles and these long fuel tanks. So you could definitely make your own sort of version of like a 30 minutes missions version of the Deep Striker with something like this, especially if you had multiples of this set, for sure. And as for option set 11, here's what our large arms are going to look like. Now you have two options for the hands, whether you want to have holding hands or open hands. You have those for the left and the right. I've just gone with one each for the moment. As you can see, these hands do have joints in them, which will allow you more than just a standard ball joint, a joint that will allow that to bend in and out here like so, which is pretty nice. Otherwise, the articulation is going to be pretty standard, just a single joint there at the elbow, rotation at the top, and then a couple of parts up here kind of around the shoulder that will just basically serve as connection pieces here. This one will move up and down like that. On the front and back of the shoulder, these ones will rotate up and down here like so. And then for the option heads, you can have either a gray part or a clear green part in there like that. And then we can also opt to have this mask part here attached onto the front. That's going to look something like that, which does look pretty cool there as well. And then for the cannon, this is pretty cool. You can use this as like this big sort of 00 style looking. Reminds me of the Gundam Virtue or the Nadle, or maybe it's the Cerevi anyway, that actually uses this big bazooka over the shoulder there, something like that you could use. Or you can attach this barrel piece into the end and make it a much huger weapon there, something like that. Large cannon, you can also use this sort of underhand like that if you wanted to. And one more cool thing, if you just pop out the handle, pop off this part, or you can leave the handle in there if you want to. We're gonna also pop off these white parts here on the side. And if we take our arm here, you can actually turn this kind of cannon into the forearm here. You just kind of plug this into right there and then replace these white parts, plug those back on to kind of hold everything together. And like that, you've got big old cannon arms, and you could then opt to either plug the barrel back into that or plug your just hand back into that as well, because you also have options for the connector point for the hand to either use a ball joint or just a 3mm peg. If you opt for using a 3mm peg, this will fit into there, and you can have this like as the actual arm itself, just with this big huge forearm there, something like that. So pretty awesome set here with this one. And you can see we have a couple of different points where you can connect different stuff onto this, so certainly could be a very versatile option piece that I could see you using as like a lower leg, this sort of being like the knee. Could use this as a lower leg section for a model kit if you wanted to get really into the kit bashing aspect of it. But speaking of kit bashing, let's go ahead and try out some different options here with some of these parts from these sets. And as you can see, as it goes with these option sets and with the 30 minutes missions line in general, again, the focus is always going to be on customization, and it's all about the different customization options that you can do with these. These sets in particular are definitely two that I feel like could be very, very useful for making some really cool custom custom kit bashes and creations here with this as like additional parts, adding these parts onto, you know, some of the different base kits like the Verdenova here or some of the other examples that I'll show, or whether you want to mix and match parts, swap parts, using some of those additional parts that we had with the Verdenova, for example. And as with a lot of the base kits do tend to have a lot of leftover joint parts that you can use for like adding different parts and things like that. So make sure you hang on to those and definitely utilize those if you want to try out some different kit bashing and swapping parts and everything like that with these option sets. They can be very handy. So definitely a really cool couple of sets here, and hope that you guys enjoyed taking a look at the Verdenova as well as these couple of sets. I know that these 2 option part sets have been out for a little while, so not exactly new, but I was happy to finally take a look at these because there's some pretty cool options in here, and definitely get some ideas going as to how I might want to do some custom build ideas in the future. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of these option parts sets down in the comment section below. If you guys have done anything cool with them, definitely let me know in the comments. And if you guys have any other further questions or comments or any of your thoughts you'd like to share about the Verdenova design too, also let me know in the comment section. I think it's a really cool design, so I really like that one, and always anxious to hear your guys' thoughts on that kit as well. As always, guys, if you want to check out some of these kits for yourself, you can check the link in the video description right down there below the video to USA Gundam Store. Got all sorts of 30 minutes missions, 30-minute sisters, kits, and option sets, and all that good stuff available there in stock. So check out that website. And as always, guys, thank you so much for all of your support, leaving a like, making sure that you're subscribed to stay tuned for more in the future. But for now, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Have a great day. See y'all later. Bye-bye.